this video, I will be sharing with you the perfect guide when betting the NHL. Things like sites you need to know or information that you need to look up. I will be going over the key things that you need before placing a bet on an NHL game. The first thing that I personally look at, and maybe the most important thing of the game, is the tendy. Who is going to be the goalie for that game? Who is going to be in the crease? Now, most of the time, confirmations for who will be the goalie for that team that day will not be made until a couple hours before the game. But of course, sometimes they do get confirmations 24 hours before or maybe the morning of. Now, a lot of times the goalie confirmation will move the line somewhat or at least a little bit one way or the other. And that's why it's so important to really figure out who's going to be the goalie for that day. And I promise you, there are plenty of ways to figure out who's more than likely going to be the goalie that next day. One of the easiest ways is just to figure out, is the team on a back-to-back? If they're on a second leg of a back-to-back, for instance, if they played on Monday and they're playing again on Tuesday, whoever was the goalie on Monday will more than likely 98% of the time not be the goalie on Tuesday. If a goalie has something like 35, 40 saves, that is a lot taken out of a goalie, and he definitely will not be starting the next day. You can also tell by just the trend of the goalie. Sometimes goalies start 6, 7 straight games, but then that 8th game, that 9th game, they might not start it, which is why maybe don't place a bet the night before on a team that you want to bet on if it looks like that starting goaltender might not be starting the next day. Another thing you can't forget when looking at the goalies for teams, a lot of times during the season, a team will start a goalie that you have never heard of, that I have never heard of, that basically nobody has ever heard of. Now, those spots can be profitable for a lot of different reasons, because the first thing you need to do is go look up where that guy came from. If he came from the AHL, go look up his AHL statistics, because sometimes these guys in the AHL are really good and just are waiting for the right moment to come up. But there are times where teams have no choice and they have to bring up a guy from the AHL who maybe has some experience in the NHL, but he's really bad. And you can figure that out looking up through simple statistics like their save percentage. If a guy has multiple seasons, especially with under an 890 save percentage in things like the AHL, guess what? He ain't gonna probably translate very well to the NHL. Don't just take 7 games and think, okay, that goalie is dog shit just because he has a bad save percentage. If it's a big sample size, you're getting a lot of games under the belt, even multiple years under the belt, and you can just tell, okay, that Tendy has about 100-something games, and he's never had over an 890 save percentage, and he has to start tonight for the Red Wings because their starting goaltender got hurt and their backup started last night. I'm not saying it's an automatic fade. A lot more goes into the bet, but those are some of the key things you need to look at before betting a game, because that's how important a goaltender is. Number 2 on the list is injuries, and I know that this seems very easy and very common sense because any sport you bet on, you should check the injuries. But the NHL is sometimes a little different. It's not like the NBA where even the 12th man is a walking bucket. But if you miss key guys in NHL games, it can absolutely throw the whole team off. The line situation that comes with it. You have to look and see if the key players are injured on certain teams, because it will change how that team plays for the rest of the season or for the time period that that player is out. On top of injuries, this is under the same category. You have to make sure that the locker room is good. The locker room is together, that the guys aren't publicly talking shit about each other, because that does happen. And when that happens, those teams always go straight down. Number 3 on this list, and maybe the most important thing to know that amateur bettors don't know about, casual bettors don't know about, that is expected statistics. Now, when capping any sport, these statistics are important, but it's really important for baseball and hockey. Expected statistics are a really good way to sniff out the frauds in the league, the teams that should be doing a lot better, the negative regression, the positive regression that's on the horizon. And I'll give you an example to make it even easier. If Team A ranks top 5 in the league in goals scored, but they rank bottom 5 in the league in expected goals scored, you can tell right away almost that that team has been very fortunate, has had a lot of lucky breaks, and at the end of the day, negative regression is looming, and it will hit at some point for that team. Now, there's other things you still want to look into. I'm not telling you that expected goals for and against is the holy grail in the way that you're going to win. But what I will tell you is that it is one of the very important stats that casual gamblers and amateur gamblers just do not look into enough and do not take seriously. So a really good spot to fade a team like Team A that I just explained is when they're going up against Team B, and now Team B ranks top 5 in expected goals against, but they rank bottom 5 in goals against. But good sites to get information like this on that, again, a lot of people just don't know about, and I'm about to just give to you for free right now. A couple of websites that you need to know to get information like this. Money Puck, that's a good one. Another good one, Natural Stat Trick. And then, of course, HockeyViz is another good one. These are some of the websites that I use on the daily when I am capping these games, and they are websites that you should use too. Number 4 on the list is kind of like what you look at when, especially when you're looking at college sports, and obviously it's very important still for professional sports, but the history. What is the history between the teams? Do they have a history from either the past playoffs or maybe even something that happened earlier that year? I'm going to give you a really good spot to look for. If a team is playing in a back-to-back situation. Now, that doesn't happen a lot. When it happened during the season, I absolutely love it, and we made a ton of money during that year. But still, sometimes you get teams who play back-to-back, or maybe they play twice in a 3 or 4 day span. But if they are playing twice in a 3-day span, or especially if it's a back-to-back days, in Team A won, Team B on that second leg of the back-to-back is going to be a lot more hungry, and they're going to get up probably a lot harder for that game. Now, that's not just me spewing that. There have been tons of NHL players who've said the exact same thing. And even on the flip side, they said when you beat one team already, you're not as up for that game the next game. I'm just putting this out there as another avenue of information that you need to look at before betting the game. Now, the 5th thing, and maybe the most important when it comes to betting hockey, that, ladies and gentlemen, is line shopping. What do I mean by line shopping? I mean, you should be looking at 5 different books every single day before you place an NHL bet. The NHL market is soft, and it's still soft. And what I mean by that is that you're going to have, if you look at 5 different books, more than likely, 4 of those books are going to have different lines. For example, if Team A is minus 120 at one book, they might be minus 150 at another. Hockey lines are so crazy and so out of control the night before that you can get crazy value on it, which is why betting the night before is very key, because again, it's how you usually can get the best closing line value possible. But it starts with looking at different books, having money in different books, and being able to look at different lines before you bet anything. If you are serious about wanting to be a long-term profitable sports gambler like I'm always talking about, then the first step you should do is join SoBet. It's 33 cents a day. You get my plays and information every single day, plus 50 other vetted handicappers. It's the greatest value in sports gambling if you want to become a better sports gambler. Make sure you smash that subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button, drop a comment down below what your favorite sport to bet on is, or if this helped you become a better NHL gambler. And of course, as always, like I said,